Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video, doing JMA Friday for today's first video. So as I was on a Friday, we're having a look at the weather for the month ahead, and we're going to look at the Japanese and CFS V2 models, see what they are both showing for the next 4 weeks. That's going to take us into the early part of November, of course. So low pressure is in control of weather at the moment. It has been through most of October so far, actually since around the last week of September. We'll see whether this low pressure dominance is set to continue for the next month with the JMA and CFS V2 models. And I'll get on that for you very shortly. Just say that coming up later on this afternoon, we'll have your regular week to 10-day video update, and that will include all of the usual features. So, we're going to start off with the 500 millibar hydrology flow charts from the JMA. First of all, looking at the North Pole view down. So, of course, that's the North Pole of the Arctic, just there. They've got the mid-latitudes of the Northern Hemisphere around here. Blue is extrapolating to below average heights, which is low pressure. Yellow, orange, and red to above average heights, which is high pressure. So, in the week ahead, this takes us to break down into week periods by the first week period takes us from the 11th to the 18th of October. In the week ahead, low pressure is in control. We've got below average heights over and to west of the country, bringing in quite a strong westerly, southwesterly wind. So it looks unsettled in the week ahead. There'll be further bouts of rain, quite strong winds at times as well, potentially. And I would have thought reasonably mild temperatures driving in across the Atlantic with that. No change as we go through into week 2. This one will take us from the 18th to 25th of October. And again, we have the below average height set as a trough within the 500 millibar flow, sat over the top of the UK. So no changes there into the sort of final stages of the month. Really, it still looks very unsettled with low pressure well and truly in control. A bit of a change showing up then for weeks 3 and 4. This one takes us from the 25th of October to the 8th of November. And the trough of below average heights is being pushed out to the west and northwest a little bit. So low pressure is kind of being moved away to our northwest, with above average heights, some high pressure building to our east. That would leave us doing something a little bit like that. So probably turning drier, perhaps turning a little bit warmer as well, or milder, as we head towards the end of October and into the start of November. This is a 2-weekly period, of course, so it might be a little bit transitional. You notice the heights do go up to Scandinavia. At this point, as the chart is showing, it is actually bringing the wind up from a south or southeast direction, which of course is going to be relatively mild. But if that high pressure was to centre over Scandinavia and allow winds to come around from the east or northeast around the back of it, then that of course by November would start to drag in much colder air from the east. As it is, that looks like it's a drier, not completely dry, but a drier but probably quite mild scenario as we're moving to the end of October and into the beginning of November. This is tropical and mid-latitude view, so the British Isles and Ireland is in the top right-hand corner of the chart as we are looking at it on this view. We can't see the North Pole view down, that's off the chart, but of course we just had a look at that view, so we don't need to see it again, really. Reminder of the week 1, 500 millibar height anomaly from the 11th to the 18th of October. Low pressure is in control, driving in from off the Atlantic, strong jet stream as well. It just looks very Atlantic driven and very unsettled. So temperature anomalies in the week ahead, actually not that mild really, close to average, little bit above. Notice most parts of Europe looking very warm. It's much colder though over in America, but for us actually it looks relatively close to average or just a little bit above with the temperature anomaly in the week ahead. And obviously unsettled with all that low pressure driving in from the Atlantic. Rainfall is going to be above average, significantly so. Quite a wet week coming up. Then we go through to week 2, which is the 18th to 25th of October. Again, low pressure is well and truly in control, moving in from off the Atlantic like that. Temperature anomalies actually going a little bit cooler than average up in the north. So for Scotland and Northern Ireland, the temperature anomaly is actually a little bit below average. For England and Wales, it's close to average. Definitely looks quite cool though there, really. Cool and unsettled from the 18th to 25th of October. Precipitation anomalies, rainfall is still above average and quite significantly so. So cool and unsettled for the next couple of weeks with above average rain. And then in weeks 3 and 4, which takes us from the 25th of October to the 8th of November, we have this ridge building to our east. It is trying to get at Scandinavia, which of course is up a chart up here. But overall, it's sort of a ridge from Scandinavia down to Central Europe with low pressure out to the northwest. That leaves us probably pulling up south to southeasterly type winds. Looks like it should be a bit milder in this couple of weeks for weeks 3 and 4. Temperature anomalies are a little bit above average, not a particularly big deviation, and it is looking a little bit drier as well, maybe still a bit above average with rainfall for the far northwest of the country, but most places are actually turning that little bit drier as the ridge begins to build up to our east. So that's finally starting to break us out of the unsettled weather. Of course, as high pressure begins to build into November, we would have to think about frost and fog, even if it's a relatively mild air mass. So that's JMA. This CFS V2 is showing for the next 4 weeks. Again, these are 500 millibar heights. We're broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period will take us from the 11th to the 17th of October. The coming week will be unsettled with below average heights coming in from off the Atlantic. Quite a strong westerly jet stream as well, and a west-southwesterly flow. So it just looks very unsettled, low pressure dominance in the week ahead. And then this goes on into week 2, which is the 18th to the 24th of October. Again, we've got those below average heights sitting to our north. The flows coming through like that. Maybe a little bit more of a northwest-southeast influence though, with the flow. So the air is kind of like coming out of southern Greenland, perhaps, or southwest to southeastern parts of Greenland. And that might lead to something a little bit cooler as well through that week 2 period. So both JMA and CFS could be seeing an unsettled but rather cool week there from the 18th to the 24th or 25th of October. That's how week 3 is looking, which is the 25th of October to the 31st. So below average heights then sort of through the west of Europe. A ridge is trying to build to our east with the CFS as well. We've got above average heights sort of pushing out of western Russia into eastern parts of Europe. This looks like it could be quite cool as well, really. Probably sending a jet stream south, but still rather unsettled too. I think the main thing with that boat is that it could be rather on the cooler side. And then we finish up in week 4 with no sign of high pressure building in, actually. That's interesting. So this is the 1st to the 7th of November. At this point, the JMA wants to build that ridge up to our east, but the CFS just keeps this trough sitting down to our west-southwest. The ridge is over on the eastern side of Europe, from western Russia down this eastern side of Europe, and warm winds, of course, coming up the east side of Europe like that. With this trough of low pressure sitting just to our west-southwest, we may be pulling in some quite cool air into that trough of low pressure, but then the winds would rise up a little bit like that. But it does look very unsettled anyway still as we go into the early part of November. CFS is not seeing an end to this autumnal deluge that we started at the end of September. Temperature anomalies in the week ahead, so they're coming out. This is the 11th to the 17th of October, coming out near North Scotland, Northern Ireland, a little bit above average for England and Wales. Very warm week coming up across much of Europe. Conversely, very cold week coming up for much of America and Canada. Week 2 temperature anomalies do look cooler, so both the models, JMA and the CFS, are seeing a chance of a cooler than average week here. This is the 18th to 24th of October, looking a little bit below average with the temperature anomaly then. Week 3 temperature anomalies look like that, going a bit warmer than average again in week 3. That's the 25th to the 31st of October. And still a bit above average with the temperature anomaly in week 4 too. This is the 1st to the 7th of November, a little bit above average with the first week of November also. Precipitation anomalies, well, not a surprise. The coming week looks very wet. This is from the 11th to 17th of October, and it is significantly wetter than average for all parts of the UK. Week 2 also looks rather unsettled. It's not as wet as it is in week 1, but from the 18th to 24th of October, we're generally favouring average or slightly above average rainfall. Week 3 also a little bit above average with rainfall, especially for northern parts of the country. The signal is usually weakening by this point. And then week 4 actually wetter, if anything. This is the 1st to the 7th of November, and if anything, the signal is stronger for it to be even wetter there at a period within this model that usually by this point the signal would be getting ever weaker. So actually for week 4, that is a very strong signal for it to be substantially wetter than average through the first week of November. Potentially a very soggy looking bonfire night then. So what we can say is that it's going to be unsettled for at least the next couple of weeks. Low pressure looks like it'll be in control if JMA and CFS V2 are right. Starting off relatively mild, probably coming a little bit colder actually just after mid-month. They both seem to be highlighting the chance of something a little bit colder there around week 2. And then we have the divergence as we get to the end of October and the beginning of November. The JMA wants to build up some above average heights to our east, so that would break us out of this unsettled weather to some degree, with turn drier. Probably relatively mild, but with an increasing risk of night frost and fog if the skies are clear. But CFS does not see that though. CFS wants to keep this unsettled weather going, and if anything, turn it even wetter as we get to the beginning of November. So we shall see about that. But definitely the rest of October, and certainly up to the final week of October, it's looking unsettled through both of these models. There is just a snapshot of what they're showing today. They could all look very, very different next week. We'll be back later on with your week's 10-day video update. No doubt that will be talking about more unsettled weather coming up in the next week to 10 days. But for JMA Friday, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.